Hello guys, just Goran here and welcome back to another episode of Building the Beekse Bergen. We are back, where we left off in the last episode currently we're at the Springbok field. Which is where I have done a little bit of off-camera work. You can already see a lot of foliage over here that wasn't there before. I've also kind of reworked this moat area, as well as this fence, which used to be just two kind of large diagonal pieces. But yeah, off camera I've done a little bit of foliage work in the back here, as well as making this little shelter. Let's pause the game to get some extra frames. Yeah, we've got this little shelter where we're making use of the new tires, which is pretty cool. And yeah, this is just a little decorative shelter. I'm not sure what its purpose really is. I think it's just there to look cool and kind of fill up the park a bit more, because there are a lot of empty spaces. But yeah, I'm not entirely happy with this place yet. It still needs a bit more foliage to really be kind of thickened out. I really need some stuff to kind of cover the ground in. But yeah, today we are going to be working on the cheetah habitats. That's plural because there's a whole bunch of them. I'm not sure we'll be able to get to all of them. I at least want to do the main one that is visible from the walking route, which is basically this and this area combined. Okay, we have a bunch of foliage and some other things. First of all, I've got this little kind of picket fence. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's lots of thin wooden planks and they are strewn about the entire path all the way along until this viewing area, which is supposed to be a bit smaller than we have it here, but I'm not going to change that. That's just an old mistake that it's too late to fix, because I'd have to redo so much pathing and stuff. It's just not worth it, so we're keeping that. But other than that, we've got a bunch of trees just strewn about the path, kind of blocking the view here and there, but not really. People are still able to look into the habitat. And yeah, the foliage on the ground is pretty barren. And then we get to the inside of the habitat. I guess that's up next. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I don't feel like I'm very good at foliage in general, so especially in these large safari habitats, I have no idea what I'm going to do to make this stuff look good. Because I've got like a bunch of trees in now, but I have no idea how I'm going to fill out like all this empty space. But well, we'll get to it at some point, I guess. I mean, this is a bit smaller. And I've got more clear reference photos of what this is meant to look like, kind of. So here we are back again, and we've got a bunch of foliage in this habitat. It is actually getting close to a point of being finished. Oh, I don't know what I'm clicking on there. Yeah, we are getting very close to a point of it being finished. We need a bunch more in the back here, because it's actually supposed to be pretty hard to see that little building over there. It's meant to be very obscured. Then we need to actually make that building, because it's still in a very temporary state at the moment. But yeah, we got foliage. We got this little nesting box or whatever you would call it. It's got a bit of bedding, and it's supposed to be shelter, but sadly it's far too small for the cheetahs to be inside of it. I actually tried placing it on top of one, and it just got teleported on top of the thing. Like, yeah, I tried to wait. Let me actually show you. So I found a sleeping cheetah, and I was like, oh look, pff, oh, that's how they solve that. Okay, well, so I couldn't even make a cool screenshot of it. Oh, he's angry. Hello there. But yeah, we've got a bunch of thick foliage. It's a very forested area where they just put the habitat inside of. So yeah, if we would turn welfare off, or we would turn welfare back on rather, they would not be happy boys about this situation, because it's probably far too foresty for them. Also, they don't know any of these plants, probably. Yeah, all we really need is more of it. Okay, lots have been done, but it's time for me to go to bed. But let me quickly give you a rundown of the things that happened. So first of all, I have gotten rid of the keeper huts that were kind of temporarily put around here. I've put them away. You probably maybe even saw it in the background earlier, and right now over here I've put them in these little things that are supposed to be shelter for the cheetahs. As you can see over here, they've got like these little plastic flaps where they can just run through and go inside. Normally in our zoo they can, because of course Planet Zoo doesn't have such gates for the animals, sadly. I wish we had kind of options for that, you know, doors or gates for animals that kind of ignore walls so that you can kind of let them through stuff, or yeah, because there was like a trick you could do with climbing frames to make like very narrow doors and things, but of course cheetahs don't use the climbing frames, so we can't even use that trick. So yeah, there's not much we can do to make something like that functional, which is a bit of a shame. I wish we had options for that. Just also in general options to like move animals between sections of a habitat like you would see in a normal zoo. Like over here with the hyenas, there's like a little section for them for when they need to clean the habitat and stuff. They have to go into this section of the habitat so that the keepers can safely go into the habitat without getting eaten by hyenas. But that's not something this game worries about, which I don't know, that could be a fun little management aspect to force you to have. That would force you to kind of make these habits a bit more complicated and have like different sections, and yeah, not just, oh yeah, put down a fence and put in a door and you're done. But oh well, what can we do about it? Nothing, because we don't make the game. So yeah, that's kind of the backstage things that are happening, but you can probably tell that a lot has happened here as well. I'm actually kind of forgot how much was done in the previous clip. Okay, I checked. In the previous clip we kind of did most of this stuff. There's actually more in here right now. There's like a bunch extra trees, so it's starting to get pretty difficult to find the cheetahs, which, I don't know, I think that's almost a good thing. It gives the animals a bit more privacy, and yeah, it makes it a bit more challenging to view the animals, which is kind of fun, you know. Ooh, where's he hanging out? Are they actually saying that? No, they're just upset and also not upset at the same time, which is always great. But yeah, now we can kind of see that little shelter area over there in the back from this viewing area, which people actually use, which I'm super happy with. They also use this one quite frequently. I was kind of afraid that the way the pathing was set up, they wouldn't actually go inside of it, but they do, which is fantastic. And over here you've got kind of a view into the other section of this habitat, where we've got another place where they can kind of lie down, and here we got an actual functional shelter as well. They can actually get inside this one, which is pretty great. And we've got all these trees kind of, yeah, rubbered off. There's like rubber kind of wrapping around them. I don't know why it's just these trees. It's not even consistent, like this one doesn't have it, and that's the same in real life. I double checked, because at first I was like, oh yeah, it's to prevent them from climbing into the trees, but they don't really climb. And then why would you not do it on some of the other ones, and why is it not done in any of the trees in this habitat? So I don't know what they're for, but they look pretty cool, so I'm just gonna keep them on there. Yeah, that's kind of the guest cheetah habitat. So what we still have left is these two habitats that are kind of just for safekeeping. I'm not sure exactly. And then we've got this big one, which houses 4 of them. That is for the car safari and the bus safari. And there's also some ones, and there's also some over here. This is actually also cheetah habitat spaces, which is for breeding pairs. And I almost forgot, there's another one over here which can be viewed from the boat safari. We are definitely not getting to all of them today. In fact, we might just leave it at this one and move on, but I'll see what I feel like doing tomorrow. Alright, I'm being a bit lazy, so I'm just gonna do some real quick edits to this building. Don't think the moving was actually necessary. And that gives us a flipped version, which is supposedly this one. Because all of these little shelters are actually the same building. Only problem is I'm not really sure if I made them right. But yeah, especially this last one, it just looks like the roof is a lot lower than what we have it. And this side looks right, it's really in the steepness of the roof. So I think I'm gonna edit this one and then we're gonna have to update all the other ones, which kinda sucks, but yeah, can't do anything about it. So to do this, I've separated the roof from the building and we're just gonna change the angle of it to be much less steep. Something like this. Maybe even more, probably even more. And now all we need to do is kind of update the rest to follow suit. And fixed. That's actually perfect. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this ended out now. So now we can regroup that. Start off by putting it in place over here. I am gonna put another keeper hut inside this one, which is going to take care of the hyenas and the goats. Probably... no, wait, the wild dogs are over there as well, yeah. So I just put 2 and 2 together and found something pretty interesting. For the longest time, I thought there was like a shack over here. But now that I'm looking at the pictures, and now that we have this shack kind of complete and stuff like that, I was looking... and suddenly I realized, because I have a picture taken from over here on which you can clearly see the shack that I totally think is there. But if you look, the shack that I'm seeing in my picture is the goat shack. Which is just... that's really funny to me. I don't know why exactly, I just find that really funny. But yeah, I have updated all of these shacks. I just gotta get rid of these keeper huts. Well, I mean, not get rid of them, I want to hide them, because I don't want to be seeing that stuff. So, I think next up I'm going to be looking at the hyena habitat, making some changes. I mainly want to get rid of the holly, elm, yeah, well, that's it, the holly and the elm. Also, I considered using these, what are you even, maple trees. But yeah, they aren't really part of my plant palette for the zoo. Oh wow, that's a very cute little tree. Yeah, our plant palette kind of starting to consist out of poplar, ash, I don't know where the ash is, here, ash, and Scots pine. Oh yeah, and there's also the birch, because that's also everywhere in the zoo. But yeah, this habitat was made before we kind of made that palette, so that's why we're gonna update it now to kind of use the same trees as we're using everywhere. And this habitat was also made before we made the change to turn welfare off. And why that mattered is that this habitat was a little bit on the small side, so I had a lot of struggles in trying to make it such a size that the animals weren't complaining all the time and protesters wouldn't show up. But of course now we have welfare turned off, so none of that matters. So it's time I kind of switch it up a bit and kind of do the terrain properly, because there's still a lot of grass in here which just isn't there, that I only put there because, oh, it's because the animals needed the grass. So that we're just gonna paint that all over with the soil. And yeah, I'll have to redo kind of the other details anyway, so let's just get rid of everything, to be honest. Alright, welcome back, and we are getting a much more lush experience throughout this place. It's really filling up with foliage, and as we're zooming out we can see that I've been reworking the hyena habitat as I said I would. And there's still a bunch of stuff to be done, especially over here. It needs to be kind of filled out in the back wall, which I don't have many pictures of, because of course it's just it's a staff only area. But the habitat itself is pretty much done. So I've got a bunch of like bibs and bobs of nettle and fern around to give a bit more greenery into the habitat, because it was getting very, very kind of barren is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, I quite like it the way it's turning out. There needs to be some more lushness over here, because these kind of in between the fences, I guess they don't trim the hedges very often or something. So it's actually much more lush in there. But other than that, it's pretty much done. So I think this episode's getting pretty long, but I really want to tackle this one last of all, just to be done with the kind of front stage of this area. So I'm gonna just dive in here and just get to work on that. There we go. That is the wild dogs area. You can see another whole big chunk of foliage has been added. So let's dive in, and we can see that for some. Okay. Is there something in the game's code that's like, oh, you're building in this area? We're gonna send more people your way, because ever since I started building here, I'm just seeing more and more NPCs walking around. It's getting to a point, like right now they're all jamming themselves into this little thing, which is the viewing area, which ended up looking pretty cool. It was actually another pretty interesting shape with these diagonal corners area that was quite difficult to make. So I also had to kind of adjust the pathing that way, which is why people can't really get right up until the thing, which is too bad. I can't change much of this anymore. Oh yeah, I put a blood scent marker here to kind of lure the wild dogs over to the viewing platform, which is pretty nice. Might want to add... Oh, you're playing? Oh, look at him. I forgot what I was saying. I got distracted. But yeah, we've got a bunch of foliage. I tried to keep it kind of as barren as it is, because basically this habitat... you've got the forest on this side and kind of an open field, which is most of the habitat. So I really tried to keep that open field pretty barren. Just adding in these dots of grass here and there to keep it a bit more interesting to look at. I've also got this thing of this row of dirt, which has a bunch of holes. Like, I wasn't able to make a good straight line out of it, which is a bit of a shame. But this is kind of supposed to be the trail that they kind of create by just walking up and down the same area all the time. So that's why there's a kind of a trail of dirt going around up until about there and back, and it also goes kind of into the center here, which I guess is where they hang out a lot. Oh, another one's going for the box. Yeah. The box is it's supposed to enrich the animals, but I'm the one just being constantly distracted by this. Oh. But yeah, just more of the same plants really that we're gonna be seeing around the entire park. I'm pretty happy with the palette. It's varied enough, but it's also nice to work with. And the only thing that this could really use is more shadow, to be honest. Like, the shadows in this game are very light, which is good because you want to be able to see. But I wish I could somehow make them darker, because especially when we're gonna be viewing from over here, like that area is supposed to be like way much darker than it is right now, which is a bit of a shame, but I mean, nothing we can do about that. Overall, I think I'm just really happy with... Ooh, is there like a group meeting taking place? What's happening? We're all chilling. They're like a pack. That's really cool. But yeah, that is gonna be it for this episode. We made a ton of progress. I'm actually super happy. Like, we got... Although most of it was already kind of built, we've kind of... like 99% finished, like this entire section of the zoo, like these 3 habitats. Also, in between cuts, I created some work zones for kind of the management aspect of the zoo. We now have a work zone for this little section, for over there, as well as just all of this stuff. And I've also still got to kind of hide these better because of the glass windows, but I've also added some staff rooms over here for kind of all the people working in the Africa village. But yeah, that is going to be it for me this episode. Before we sign off, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that would be the fact that we are almost at 300 subscribers. Now, I don't really care about the numbers too much, but it is the first kind of milestone I'm gonna be reaching ever since starting up the channel again with the Planet Zoo content. And since I did that, we have actually slowly been climbing, and there's actually it's a rising number, which is really great. I'm really happy there's actually people enjoying my content, and well, enjoying it enough to stick around at least. So to celebrate that, once we hit the milestone, I want to do a live stream on YouTube, which the date will be announced, I guess, when we hit the milestone. And in the live stream, I want to be doing a tour of the Beekse Bergen Zoo in game. Yeah, a tour of the zoo that we built, but then while we're touring, I'm gonna pull up the reference photos as frequently as possible. I'm basically gonna make a selection of reference photos around the entire zoo that we'll be able to take a look at while we're touring around, so you really get to see the comparison pictures. And since it's gonna be live, you'll be able to kind of ask questions and tell me what to show if you want to see anything in particular, and we can also maybe take a look at some other things that I have done or like to do, or just anything really. So if you have any questions for me regarding me, my life, the zoo that we're building, feel free to leave those in the comments. Then I'll at least have some questions to talk about during the live stream, or if you plan on coming, then you can ask the questions then. So I've rambled on for long enough. It's time for me to end off this video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.